Good evening. My name is Vince Noblet, President of the Speedway Town Council. Today is September 27th, 2021. It's 7 p.m. And I'll call this meeting to order. First on the agenda would be a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, I want to introduce everybody on the council here. Our town manager. Good evening.
Good evening. Yep.
Grant KLEINHENZ. Next is our town councilor, Eileen Fisher.
Good evening.
Next to her is our town councilor, David Lindsay.
Good evening.
On the far left, our town attorney, Bob Clutter.
Evening.
Next to him is Jacob Bladesdell, our town's treasurer, clerk treasurer. Next to him is Gary Pettico.
Good evening.
Councilor. Vice President of the council is Gary Rakes.
Good evening.
Next on the agenda is minutes, approval of the minutes for September 11th, 2021 meeting. These minutes have been presented to the council. There's no changes or corrections. They will be approved as submitted.
I think you said the 11th, but it was the 13th.
Oh, 13th. Gotta get mine. Okay, are there any changes or corrections? Hearing none, they're approved as submitted. Next is a resolution authorizing the application for submission and local match commitment for the Office of Community and Rural Affairs grant. And Grant,
Yes.
you're handling that.
Appropriately named, I think.
Yeah.
So this is a grant application submission to the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, commonly known as OCRA, for a community development block for planning purposes. The town would like to undergo a comprehensive planning purpose in 2022. Monies have been placed into the budget. We held a public hearing at the September 13th meeting. We've received a couple of letters of approval and are working through some of the financial documents, narrative statements, and other forms that Council President Vince Noblet will be signing. I think you've signed a couple that we've gotten together, but we have some more.
Okay.
So this evening, what we are asking for, this resolution, approval of this resolution says that we commit $6,700 as our match, and that Vince is authorized to sign and submit that application on behalf of the town council for the town of Speedway. So
Okay.
with that, we would recommend approval. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Do I have a motion for approval of resolution?
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we approve the application submission and local match commitment that our town manager just described.
So I'm going to have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. I'll open it up for a discussion. Anybody have any questions for the grant?
This is very, very minor, but it says the council president is authorized to prepare and submit, but the council president will not be preparing it, correct?
Correct.
Right, we will be, we can remove that.
Just had to ask the obvious. So.
I will also say in the final whereas clause, we've already conducted the public hearing. It says will conduct or has conducted. So we'll clean that up before Vince signs that tomorrow. I'll change both those things.
Thank you. Any other comments?
For our town attorney, should we have the proper verbiage before we vote?
You can vote and approve it subject to those changes.
Okay. So do we need a motion to agree to what is?
Yes, sir.
I will amend my motion pending those changes that were just acknowledged, that we go ahead and approve the application submission and local match commitment as described by the town manager.
And I second that.
Okay, is there any further discussions? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the resolution authorizing the application submission and local match commitment for the Office of Community and Rural Affairs grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda is approval of an agreement with the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Indianapolis regarding the reconstruction of Biltmore Avenue. Tim Gropp, would you bring us up to date?
Good evening, Council. Yes, this, not to rehash too much history, but I believe it was around Christmas time last year, there was a notice that we received about potential vacation of Biltmore Avenue. That kind of triggered an immediate backlash from the community as well as the town, who were unaware of what was going on. So from that point, Council President Noblet and myself and Jacob at the time, Grant was here yet, engaged with Father Paul and the team over at St. Christopher Parish to understand better what they were trying to accomplish with that. It was clear from day one that we did not want to just vacate and close Biltmore Avenue. So in those discussions, that was not the intent. That was just the process that they were going down. So this agreement has kind of taken on what the intent is that helps with the overall campus expansion and improvements at St. Christopher, but also addresses some of the needs that the town will have as well with Biltmore Avenue. So they looked at two proposals of either adding some angle parking on the existing Biltmore or possibly reconfiguring the road. Actually, Bill, I believe, has, yep, there we go, concept of what's being proposed. St. Christopher has incorporated this new design, which it's a traffic calming feature, if you will. It's a little bow in the road to slow some traffic down, but St. Christopher actually owns the two properties on the western side of Biltmore, which would allow for them to do this. That also allows them to push parking to their side and help with stacking for pickup and drop off, as well as additional parking for church services. But what the town gets out of this is a reconfigured brand new road that also addresses some of our stormwater issues in this area. We have agreed to split the cost of some traffic safety signals, some flashing lights. I believe they're red and yellow. I don't think we have the exact ones picked out yet, but during pickup time, it addresses that they're able to utilize that road for an hour and a half prior to pickup and an hour after pickup. And then also, we were able to meet with the immediate owners to the western border, as well as addressing some of their concerns, which included lighting, which will be addressed by new LED lights that focus the light down and not so much out as they do today, as well as landscaping and buffering on that western side. So we tried to accommodate what the church was trying to accomplish, and I'll let them talk a little bit about their overall project, but also make sure that Biltmore Avenue stays open and active road, as it's a major access point for the park, for Leonard Park, as well as still a route for our fire department. This will be built and deeded over, so we will have processes beyond this point where we actually vacate the road. It'll get built, replatted, and dedicated back, just like any private development, similar to Founders Square, where they actually build the infrastructure and then deed it back to the town. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the contract before you. I have John Haley from the building committee, St. Chris. We have other members there, and then also the principal of St. Chris School is here to talk a little bit about the school as well. So I'll check if you have specific questions on the agreement first.
I think we'll make a motion.
Yeah, yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement with the, sorry, I need my glasses.
It's Roman Catholic.
Just want to make sure I get this right. With the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Indianapolis regarding reconstruction in Biltmore Avenue.
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second, so we'll open it up for discussion.
Well,
We can-
this is in my district, so I'll go ahead and speak on this for sure. It's been a lot of discussion on this, a lot of meeting with neighbors, in particular the neighbors that are most impacted, the Cohees and the Canyas. I've sat in meetings with them. I appreciate the work that Tim, you and Vince and others have done on this, as well as the work with the church. I think as a resident that's lived literally down the street from this my entire life, knowing some of the flooding issues we had just last week because with all the rain we had, this is a significant improvement that this parish and the Archdiocese are helping with. It also addresses some of the traffic calming measures, their needs that you described, and it allows for us to still have access, 3 accesses to Leonard Park, 365 days a year, minus the festival and some of the things that St. Christopher's does that are fantastic programs, and I'm in full approval.
Okay. Any other questions of Tim at this point? Tim, do you know approximately how much this road is costing? Did you ever get an estimate in relationship to that?
Hand it over for those questions.
Okay.
John.
We'll get this, call up. Yeah, those.
I'm John Haley with St. Christopher's, and I'd like to start by thanking you all for the work that you've put in, that Tim has put in, and that Bob has put in getting us to this point. As far as the cost, we've not looked at a breakdown from our contractor on, we're still trying to swallow the total.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right.
But I can't find that out if you like.
No, I just wanted to see what kind of impact, from that standpoint, but that's fine. You can get back with Tim or in relationship to that.
I will get Tim a cost on that.
So have all your plans been submitted on the road?
They are in the process of being submitted.
Okay,
We needed approval of this agreement
okay,
before the ILP will take a look at that.
okay. So, from a safety standpoint, I noticed that, the road is bent basically to keep the traffic slowed down. Also, the safety of the parents and the kids in terms of dropping off and picking up. And I'm sure Karen knows the ins and outs of that, and she can address that. But it'd be interesting to tell the public, unless you live around there, you don't realize how many kids and the issues that are there. And I know that Tim has been working with you in terms of the procedure during construction. That's always, that's Tim's specialty, from that standpoint.
We have been working with Tim on that, and at this point, we've got the construction modifications down to about 4 weeks
Okay,
in May of '22. And the remainder of the construction will go on from early May through July to maybe the middle of August.
so the road is like one of the last things that you actually work on, or is that?
It's ending up that way. It was going to be first, but because of all the problems with pickup and drop-off and making temporary arrangements, we've kind of adjusted the schedule where we can do that at that period
Great.
and keep that adjustment down to, like I said, about 4 weeks.
Sure.
May I join John to explain?
Yes, absolutely.
So we met with the construction crew last week for several hours, and some of you may remember I met before this council in the old dingy room across, a couple years ago when we first started talking about the safety. But I brought to the attention of our construction that I would much rather end the year on a crazy note than start the year on a crazy note. So by starting in May, because we had talked about doing it during the summer, But my fear, and I'm not in construction at all, my fear would be we'd get to the end and they'd say, we're not ready yet. So I said, well, let's push it back a little bit. So by ending the year, hopefully we'll have maybe 3 weeks where there will be an adjustment to our dismissal and our drop-off times that we'll work through like we did last time with your support with the police department to make sure it's as least intrusive to our neighbors. And then during the summertime, it wouldn't be an issue.
I think the other benefit in May would be the better weather.
Yes.
So dismissal is not going to involve winter coats and all the gloves and hats and things you struggle with getting kids out in and out of the buildings with. Yeah.
I didn't mean to take over.
No.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Karen, I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself to the
I'm
public?
sorry, I'm Karen King. I'm the principal of St. Christopher School. While I'm up here, you want me to just tell you a little bit about the school?
Sure.
So we serve pre-K through 6th grade students here in Speedway. We have a challenge that some Catholic schools don't have because we are surrounded by fabulous public schools. So a lot of Catholic schools in the city have, really been able to up their enrollment because there's competing against schools that aren't so great. But I've got a tough job in myself in getting students in my school, so kudos to the Speedway Public Schools as well. We're very similar in that we're a small school. Our class sizes are small. The difference is, of course, our kids are able to attend Mass and we teach religion, but other than that, we're very similar to the other 4 elementary schools in the area. We have 182 students currently, 132 families. So depending on if we have basketball practice or, whatever other events going on after school, we typically have 120-ish cars coming through the line at dismissal time. And just kind of going back in history, we lined them up 3 wide on Biltmore, which we got approved several years ago, and then coming into our parking lot 3 wide where they filtered down into 1 wide. And it's a pretty smooth process these days. The very first day we did it, I think it took an hour, but by day 3 we were down to 30 minutes, and on any given day now we're 15 to 20 minutes and we're cleared out.
Great. Does everybody have any questions of Karen?
I just think the other safety features that were described, or maybe not described, there's sidewalks on both sides of Biltmore for this future road as opposed to one side today. That's certainly a benefit for the whole community to be able to get between 16th and 15th. I think the signage that Tim mentioned, it's actually not that expensive in comparison to this whole project, and so it benefits more than just your school children. It benefits the town that want to cross the street at those times. So a lot of thought was given as it relates to safety. So I think that's really important.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I'd like to thank all of you, but also thank Tim and Bob and Vince. As everyone has learned, government moves slow. Sometimes we move slower than what we want, but I appreciate your patience with us and the hard work that Tim and Bob and Vince have put in on this. To talk about it for 10 minutes, I don't think gives it justice to how much time we spent in both sides talking to come to the agreement this evening, but thank you.
And ditto, we're so appreciative of the partnership that we have with everybody here in the town of Speedway in all your work, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Tim had a comment behind you, I think.
A couple clarifications on those questions. So, as John said, when this agreement is, assuming this agreement gets approved, we would submit that to Indianapolis, which would finish up the ILP process. We met with St. Chris. We had Rob and John meet to kind of talk through process, permitting, everything else. We received the construction plans today in the mail, so we just got them this afternoon. Everything seems to be in order. We won't do an official review until we receive the signed ILP from Indianapolis. They submitted well before the July 1st changeover. But once we have that, we'll do the official approval, but that'll allow us to start thumbing through them a little bit and checking on things and make sure everything's in order prior to releasing any permitting. I think that's it. Thank you. And then just, oh, well, sorry, I said it was it, and then I jumped in another one. That's what I do. The other one was just on the logistics. We met last week, and it was clear they needed to go back and talk to their contractor about staging where they're going to be putting equipment, where they're going to be parking cars, how we're going to get kids safely in and out. And it's clear that there's not one answer to that question. It's going to be an ongoing conversation with St. Chris as the project evolves, because this isn't just Biltmore, this is several improvements on their campus as well. It's a pretty significant investment overall. So we'll continue to engage in that conversation and make sure the kids are safe. It was kind of our recommendation to look at times when the students aren't in there so we don't have to coordinate that pickup, drop off in unsafe areas, understanding that the summer is also our busiest time at the park. So we'll do our best to keep routes open and traffic moving.
Sure.
Like St. Christopher's is here, do you want to talk about the project a little more than just the road in terms of what you're doing?
We can do that.
That's all, John.
We're affecting most all the buildings on our campus with this project. It is set as a major improvement in safety, in security, and in ADA access. We're combining, joining all of the buildings that will remain on campus so that you can stay under roof and get to any part of any of our buildings. We're also expanding parking. So we're getting about 20% additional parking out of the process. And we're consolidating our entrances to one entrance point. And we've had a couple of meetings with the Speedway Police Department talking about how we do this and how we accomplish that and what good that does for us. So we will continue to work with them as we go along on the safety aspect.
Good. That's good. Well, I appreciate you coming here tonight.
We appreciate you having us and also spending the time that it's taken to this point to get to where we are.
Absolutely. I'd like to ask at this point in time if there's any other public comment that we've made. Mr. Reller?
Thank you. My name is John Reller, and I reside at 5503 West 16th Street. I was instrumental with my neighbors in voicing opposition to the initial vacation with really one critical subject in mind, and that's maintaining the residential character of our neighborhood. And it has been verbally discussed that the church has no intent, and I'm a Christian and in favor of the church. I'm not sure I want the size of church that this is going to become, but in any event, the desire on our part is to retain the residential character, to not have church activities on our side of Biltmore, on the west side, and to retain the house that's at the corner of 16th and Biltmore, which is currently owned by the church. And it's been verbally represented that those three items are in agreement, that the architecture will stay the same, the residential. But when I see the agreement, that's not at all what the agreement says. And if the intent is one thing and the agreement says another, I'm asking if we could consider tightening up the agreement a little bit so that that's what actually is written and agreed to in writing. And I just want to read one sentence to you which specifically talks about this, and it's in paragraph 9, and it says, no playground equipment or parking lots may be installed on the west part of Biltmore Avenue on a lot within the Carter Park addition adjacent to any lot owned by a third party to this agreement. And specifically what that says is, as soon as they offer Tim Kenya or Derek Cohey a significant, more than their residential property is worth, they can then put a parking lot on the lot they own. If that's the intent of the town council, I think that should be shared to the residents. If it's not the intent, I'd ask that those last 7 or 8 words be removed, including but not limited to, or I'm sorry, adjacent to any lot owned by a third party to this agreement, because I think that would more likely align with what the parties' intents are. And other than that, other than that, I thank you for the time.
Thank you. At this time, I think I'd ask our attorney, Bob, if that makes sense to him, or can we, those concerns be addressed as an addendum later on?
You can certainly address them as an addendum later on. I guess my thought on that would be, 50 years from now, if the church owns everything west of Biltmore, not to say that they will, but if they did, then, that it might be reasonable to assume that they might want to put a parking lot west of there if all
Right.
the residences there are gone. We don't know.
Are you negotiating for the church or for the town?
I'm the town attorney, sir.
That's what I understand. It's my understanding that you advised the church to file for the vacation. Their attorney told me that. Now you're defending them on trying to get this clause, which does not protect the residents of this town. So I don't see why you're taking the position you are.
I was
John,
asked a question by the president.
I asked him specifically a question about it, John.
I understand that, and he defended that
I'm
you're
not
likely to want to acquire more land.
No, that's not what I said, sir. That is not at all what I said. I said, if in the event, a long period of time from now, 50 years from now, the church owned everything west of Biltmore, it might be reasonable for them to request to put a parking lot or something else
Sir, that
there.
would mean that they own the entire Carter Park subdivision. Correct? That's what you're representing?
That's not what I said.
Well, what else is there? If they owned everything down to the end of the street, that's the whole subdivision.
I said, if they own a substantial number of lots west of Biltmore, they may want to put other improvements over there. That's all I'm doing is answering a question, number one. Number two, I did not instruct anybody to file for a vacation.
Well, that's what they're representing.
That did not occur. I was as surprised as everybody else in the town when that was filed.
It's unfortunate that you were represented like that.
It's unfortunate that I represent it like that.
That they represented that you were the source of that vacation petition.
No, that's not what happened.
He said you told him to handle it that way.
I had never heard of Mr. Carroll prior to the vacation being filed.
All right, I apologize.
Okay, John, if
But
you
what
could sit
I'd
down.
like to do is maintain the residential character, and it's clear this church has every intent of continuing to encroach into it, and I'm asking the town council to protect the residents by changing this to only allow for what is being proposed, not for future plans that don't exist.
Okay. Are you,
That's their prerogative,
okay.
That's whose prerogative?
the town council's.
And that's why I'm asking them to be aware of this consideration and to remove
We
it.
took it under consideration. Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and call for, first I'm going to ask for motion.
You have
Got a motion?
We have a
So
motion
I'm going
and a
to go
second.
ahead and call for a vote. I don't know, I got lost in the conversation.
Yeah, Mr. President, I'll make a comment first. Having been part of conversations with yourself and Tim Gropp, our staff member who's really kind of led this effort, as well as our attorney, and even additional conversations. As a resident just 5-6 homes away, I absolutely have concerns for this sort of thing. I don't believe, after conversations with the church, with members of the church, that that's their desire to take over the neighborhood in that regard, and I don't think that's necessarily what John is saying either. John, Mr. Reller is trying to protect, and I understand he does that for a living, so I respect that, but I don't think their intent is to do that. I do realize this is an agreement that goes on in perpetuity, but I think at a certain point, we have to live in faith that we'll work together, and there'll be additional changes that'll come as a part of this. So I'm not going to change my motion, but I do want to get it on the record that I believe the intent of those that are involved in this committee, and those I'm talking about St. Christopher's Committee and council, have in mind to do exactly what we've done. We've kept a street open with the intent for it to be a third artery into the park area and out of the park area. Safety was a key concern, and I think we're accomplishing those things.
Sure. Okay, is there no other discussion? I'm going to call for a vote on the approval of an agreement with the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Indianapolis regarding the reconstruction of Biltmore Avenue. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. President, can I go back, go back to our town attorney just for clarification in terms of Mr. Reller's comments regarding paragraph 9? That can be discussed or
Absolutely.
dealt with later on.
Yes, absolutely. At any point in time, you and the church can modify this agreement. Just has to be done in writing.
Okay,
So
Good.
it can be done at any time, whether it's that particular issue or any other one.
Okay, good.
okay. Next on the agenda is a resolution for the disposal of excess property. Tim?
Good evening again.
Good evening.
This resolution is required by state law anytime we have equipment that we want to dispose of. We have, obviously, we've been clearing out the old town hall, and there was quite a bit of old technology from the cable station. And then we also, when we purchased this property, we acquired all the personal property in it as well, desks, chairs, different things, and that is all being stored over at our facility across the street. A mixture. We've used a lot of that, and then some of the old furniture from Old Town Hall and the annex and the police station has mixed in. So we're at that point where we feel everyone has what they need, desk-wise, chair-wise, there's old paintings. So this is a list of the assets that we're okay to dispose of. Some of it will be through dumpster. If there is a need to, in the community, for a desk or a chair or file cabinets, we have a lot of file cabinets, please contact probably Ed or Lopez, our administrative assistant, and we'll arrange for a time to look at what we have. But it's time for us to start cleaning those buildings out, getting them ready to move on to whatever that next step is. So this is the list of everything that we have as surplus property that we'd like to dispose of one way or the other.
Mr. President, I make a motion we approve Resolution 2021-05.
Second.
I got a motion and a second.
I'll second.
Go Eileen.
You already did?
I already.
I'll third.
All right. Okay, good. Is there any discussion with Tim in relationship to this?
There might be a couple of antiques on here for those who have interest in them after we move towards disposal, if we approve this.
Yeah, in particular, some of that, there are collectors out there that like that old technology.
Tim, is there a procedure that we have to dispose them by? Is that spelled out in the law, or?
I'll defer to Bob.
It is. Those items that are declared surplus, and just looking through this list, there's a lot of technology equipment, very old technology equipment, that is obsolete and probably non-functional or non-compatible with current things. Most of those, if they're determined to be of no or negligible value, recycled, destroyed. If there are things, say somebody wants to buy a desk for $5 or $10, which is probably about all it would be worth, you can certainly do that. For surplus by and of itself means that it is of no or negligible value.
So does a potential buyer just make an offer?
Yeah. If somebody wants an old desk or filing cabinet, and they offer you $10 for it,
I guess
and
that's
it just goes into
Some of the filing cabinets are good. A lot of the desks are bits and pieces now.
bits and pieces.
my question is, are we going to list this on the town website? What's kind of the procedure that we?
You can do that. You can also auction it off if you want. I don't think any of it is valuable enough that an auctioneer would touch it. So it'd probably be better off either listed on the website or, if somebody wants to come in and take a look at desks and filing cabinets or something like that.
Office chairs.
In the, any proceeds that are gained just go into the town's general fund.
Yep. So we could have a window where we say, here, it's open right now, come see if you want anything. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, to Bob's point, there's going to be, we're going to call a electronics recycler at one point and have them take a big load out, and we're going to probably have to rent a dumpster and clear the rest of it out of
Yeah.
stuff that's just no good.
The torn up desks and things like that,
Yeah.
they're just going to end up in a dumpster. But
Okay. Got a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, resolution disposing of excess property, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda is appointment to the Speedway Arts Council. We had an opening on the Arts Council. We also had an individual that worked with the Arts Council during the month of May in the Wilcox Building. Her name is Laura Holmes, or Holm. And you guys basically had a review of her intent of joining the Arts Council. We did talk to the president of the Arts Council, and she more than is very anxious to get her on board and serving. And I called her up this morning and thanked her for putting her application in and offering to serve the town of Speedway. So I'd like to see what I call for
Need a nomination.
nomination.
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Laura Holm to our Arts Council.
I move that we close the nominations.
Okay, I'm going to call for a vote.
Second that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. I'm going to go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of Laura Holm signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Welcome to the Arts Council.
Welcome, Laura.
Yeah, absolutely. Next is Ordinance 1348. Jacob?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yep,
Yep.
we've been in budget season, I think, for a long time, but we're finally at the end of that process with first reading of all the budget ordinances. Before talking about it, I'll just mention that we are required to, and we're required to provide public notice of this hearing 10 days prior, which we did do. And through the state's methods. And then I also put it on my Facebook page. Yes, I have a clerk, Jacob Blaisdell, Clerk Treasurer Facebook page. So if you're interested in all the interesting things that go on in municipal finance, you should follow. Give me a follow. So I have over 100 people. I mean, that's for, I mean,
are they all family members?
Family member.
people like pride. I think Bill has a few slides that he can put up. Bill?
There you are.
So I was thinking about how I can make municipal finance more interesting and to the general public, and I thought, I know what I'll do. I will put some PowerPoint slides together to really get people excited about this. See, I'm being facetious, but in years past, we've kind of talked to kind of what's going on in the budget, where funds are, and just kind of spoken in generalities, but you're talking about millions of dollars in different departments in different places, so I did think it would be helpful to provide kind of a visual representation of where our funds are, where they're going, and kind of how we're changing from year to year. So this shows all of the town departments that are covered under the ordinance, which does not include what are considered enterprise funds. So that's mainly just our sewer and water utilities. So they're not part of this ordinance. They're not included in here. So this is, I'm just speaking to what's in the, you guys are up for approval tonight. As you can see, of course, we spend a lot of our funds on public safety, police and fire. Working left to right, our debt service has gone down a little bit. I'd like to take credit for that, but it's more just in kind of how the amortization schedules change and adjust from year to year. Cumulative capital development is also notable in that it's down. We used this fund to pay for the LED streetlight project. So we had budgeted kind of higher than normal last year, but that's now back to kind of a more normal, in line with revenue kind of level. Like I said, police and fire, certainly a big chunk of how we're allocating dollars, and again, allocating increases from 2021 to 2022. And then the only other notable thing here, the street department is up a decent amount. Last year, well, really, because you write this budget, in 2020, gas tax revenue was down significantly and very sudden. So we kind of hit the brakes on the street department budget, pun intended, and just kind of backed that off for that year. But we're kind of seeing slowly the revenue increase a little bit and go up. And, we have been smart, and you, council, have been smart with these funds over the years. We have decent balances. And so we like to spend these, particularly if we can get the community crossings matching grant funds. So we are kind of upping back to doing kind of a little bit of catch up and back to where our levels have been in the past. Everything else staying relatively flat. Bill, if we can go on to the next slide. So this shows just the 2022 budget, but provides a bit of a breakdown. So it's not detailed in the budget ordinance, but what I will submit to the Department of Local Government Finance for their review does provide a breakdown between what they consider the 4 major categories. So it's personnel costs, supplies, the services, and then capital, kind of denoted in the different colors there. So again, just providing another kind of representation of where the dollars go across our budget. And as you can see, we've got a lot of, we have firefighters and police officers, and so personnel costs are a large part. We put that, invest that in the men and women that serve those departments. But then, of course, the street department, a big chunk of that is capital. It's yellow denoted by capital, because we're doing a lot of contracted work and street and road reconstruction. Next slide. And so another question is like, well, where does this all come from? These are the different funds that we have. Again, not including the utilities in this. But this just provides an idea of, obviously, the general fund is the big part of this, and then where those funds are being spent. A lot of times on personnel costs, but certainly capital is a big part of that too. And local road and street and MVH are also kind of considered the same thing. So LRS and MVH are part of the gas taxes we get. So we're allocating those. Parks and Rec also has a separate part of the property taxes. And then it's kind of a weird thing, but we get riverboat gambling money, kind of part of just the state's process and how money gets funneled around. We have historically, and again in this budget, spend those funds on stormwater improvements throughout the town. And that's the last slide. Like I said, just trying to help provide a more visual representation of kind of where the funds are going. If you guys approve tonight, this then goes to second reading, which would happen at our next scheduled meeting. And then if it's approved there, it goes to Department of Local Government Finance, where they evaluate, make sure that we're not spending more than we have coming in, plus reserves. It definitely does not do that, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm not worried about DLGF kicking it back. But as we always do, appreciate this is a lengthy process. There's some late nights and long meetings and conversations with departments and council, so appreciate all of you and the work you've put into it. Grant as well, coming right. You basically started kind of right as we'd already kicked things off, and you got right into it.
A good starting point. Get you up to speed quickly.
So appreciate that, and all the departments putting their time and effort into thoughtfully preparing these. So happy to take any questions, or welcome to provide your own comments.
I'll go ahead and we'll need a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve the first reading of the 2022 budget for the town of Speedway, as explained to us by our clerk treasurer.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. And then, open it up for discussion now. Any other comments?
I'll comment now and not comment this way for the rest of
Okay.
this. I know the schools are here and the library and public transportation as well, but there's been, to the points that Jacob mentioned and Grant as well, there's been a lot of work, as much work as I can remember going into this. I think we're well organized at a very challenging time coming off of COVID the last 2 years, not knowing in 19 and then knowing last year that we had COVID. We still don't know exactly what revenue is going to be, but I think we prepared well here. So I commend the council and Grant, Jacob, and others that contributed.
Any other discussion?
The only comment I would have is thanks to the department heads and all the work that they do. They really put the budget estimates together at first, then Jacob and I, we act the part of that questioner where we're asking, what's this for, why is this important, et cetera. I think this budget is responsible in the respect that I think it addresses concerns that we have, and I think deals well with our money in the light of COVID. We did not go overboard in many areas. I think we held restraint in certain expenditures, pushed some things out, but we addressed many things. We're adding a police officer. We're addressing equipment that has not been addressed in several years, and there's some capital improvement and other projects in those budgets, as well as trying to take care of our employees. As you know, good employees are hard to find, and we're trying to compensate them after not receiving much in raises over the past year or so. So I think it's a great budget and a good start for myself to learn our departments and understand what our key challenges and issues are.
Great. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote on Ordinance 1348. That's for the town of Speedway, first reading of the budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is Ordinance 1349, approval of the 2022 budget for the schools of the town of Speedway. Is there a motion for that?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve Ordinance 1349 for the school budget of 2022 for schools, first reading.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. Open a discussion on the school's budget that was presented to the town. Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of 2022 budget for the schools of town of Speedway, first reading, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is Ordinance 1350, approval of the 2022 budget, town of Speedway Public Library. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion, we approve ordinance 1350 on first reading this evening.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. I'll open up for comment. Is there any comment concerning the library's budget? I just want to thank Darcy for coming today, and Carolyn, thank you for attending the meeting. Hearing no comments, then I'll call for a vote on the budget for the Speedway Public Library funding, 1350. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Last is Ordinance 1351, approval of the 2022 budget of Speedway Public Transportation on first reading. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the budget for the public transportation as presented.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. Open it up for discussion. Is there any discussion in relationship to the public transportation? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor of the approval of the 2022 budget for the Speedway Public Transportation, first reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. And I want to thank you, Jacob, for that tremendous slides there. It was riveting. I think it carried it over the top. It really did. Next is the approval of claims and utility adjustments. Jacob?
Yes, thank you. Claims presented to you represent those made from September 11th through September 24th, and I'd be happy to take any questions or would appreciate your approval.
Okay, is there a motion for the approval of claims as submitted by the town clerk treasurer?
Certainly, I'll make that motion. We approve the claims as explained to us by our clerk treasurer.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. If there's any discussion of those claims? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the claims as submitted by the town clerk treasurer, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is utility adjustments. Jacob?
Thank you. Same time period, September 11th through September 24th. Just a couple, one leak adjustment and then refund to a customer who is in our sewer district but in Citizens Water that we weren't notified they had discontinued their service, so we refunded that and would appreciate your approval on those as well.
Mr. President, I make a motion we approve the utility adjustments as presented.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. There's any discussion for the utility adjustments? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of the utility adjustments as presented by the town clerk treasurer, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, Grant, it's town manager report.
Yes, just a couple of items. There have been some vandalism at various town parks, obviously Meadowwood and Leonard, over the past couple of weekends. The park board has decided to close those restaurants, obviously after 3 p.m. every day. If there are events on the weekend, they will be unlocked and relocked, but several $1,000s in damage has been done, and it's really a condition of what is going on the internet right now and TikTok. So we hope it's just a fad and this will stop, but it doesn't make sense to allow that to continue happening. What I would say is if you see something, say something, call the police, report it so that we can stop that from happening. Whitcomb Avenue Sewer Project, we have sent letters out a couple of weeks ago. We've received 15 responses of the 27, so about 55%. Of those 15 responses, 8 are in favor, 7 are opposed to that sewer project. We still are going to send out one more letter to the 12 who have not responded tomorrow or Wednesday, give it another week and a half, and then bring that information to the council. I don't know what we're going to do after that, but we'll see where that goes. So that's been an interesting project to work on. And then finally, there is a Community Day and Touch a Truck event this Thursday, the 30th, from 5 to 8 p.m. in Leonard Park. This is sponsored by Indiana 811 and our Parks Department. There will be police vehicles there, I believe fire vehicles, other heavy construction equipment. People can come. There are vendors. I believe there will be, maybe it's a food truck. I can't remember. Fun Days Ice Cream and Cafe Soleil will be there. So it should be interesting, but it's a free event. You have to pay for that food if you come, but 5 to 8 this Thursday at Leonard Park. That's all I have this week.
Great. Given that there's only 12 people that haven't responded, we might reach out to them and try to go over and talk to them since it's only 12 people.
Yeah.
And just find out what the issues are.
The one problem I have is I'm not sure when a good time to do it is. If I go during the day, most people are working or out. I'm just not sure how we're going to. We'll send one more letter, it'll cost us a couple bucks.
Right.
Then we'll go out and try to figure out how to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next report from council members. Councilman Gary Pedigo, please.
I would just remind everybody, if you're physically able and have the time, please donate blood, platelets, or red blood cells. And go Plugs. That's all I have.
Councilor Eileen Fisher.
So I just wanted to sort of tag on to what Grant had said in regards to the vandalism. I know some of the vandalism also was done in our schools, I believe, as well. But we just approved our budget, and those expenses don't just come back on the town, but trickle down through the taxpayers. So, like Grant had said, if you see something, say something. And parents, know what your kids are doing. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Councilor David Lindsay.
I just have one item to share. I received a text last Tuesday from someone that lives in your district, and her mother-in-law lives in my district. And Jacob, you may be able to help me. The company that's doing the work for the paving up in Meadowwood and Vinewood, Grant,
I don't know the name of the contractor, but I can get you that.
Okay. Well, we need to find out the name, and I'm drawing a blank on it. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But the company that's putting in the new sidewalks and curbs on Meadowwood, this lady that texted me, her mother-in-law, or her in-laws live there, and there's a gentleman that saw her mother-in-law walking through the yards to get to her car, so he put a board over the gravel for her to walk on. The mother-in-law asked if he could put two down, and he did. He then came back later that night and put a handrail up for her. So they're really going above and beyond up there. And I know Cheryl posted something as well as on Facebook about the great job they're doing. So just wanted to share that. She asked that I share it with the council, so I thought I've shared it with the council and now the rest of the town. So that's all I have.
Well, that's great to hear things like that.
It is.
People really are concerned about. Vice President Gary Riggs.
Sorry, good, David. I appreciate you sharing that. This Thursday is my wife's birthday. I don't think we'll be going to Touch a Truck, although she might like the ice cream. I'll probably like it better. But I just wish her happy birthday, and that's all I have to report.
Okay. Just giving the final comments. I think there's quite a few things. I know that the employees of the town have been working diligently on a lot of different matters that affect the town in general. And I'm really appreciative, Grant, that your ability to come in and orchestrate that and getting your feet wet, learning that learning curve of just dealing with that large number of employees from that standpoint. And Jacob.
It is easy when you have good people helping, like Jacob and Tim and others, so it's a team effort, definitely.
I definitely want to thank Jacob for a tremendous amount of work that you've done on the budgets. I mean, that's a lot of detailed work that I would never be able to put myself through.
It's weird, but I like it.
Jacob loves it.
Yeah, you get down in there and get the decimal points in, but, for us to make decisions in relationship to the future of this town, you have to have very accurate information and data that will guide us in making decisions. And I want to thank you personally for working on it and keeping us on the straight and narrow, and especially when it comes to budget time. Because everybody can spend money that we don't have. The trouble is that we got to make sure that we're effective in spending the money that we do have. And a lot of things will come over time. And David, you hit the nail on the head when you say government moves at a very slow pace. And in fact, sometimes it's almost feels like it's going in reverse. But again, thanks for the team effort. I know it's a team, and Tim has been part of that team, involved with moving us along. And I just want to thank them for all the work that you're doing. Appreciate it. At this point, it is 7:59. I'm going to call this adjourned.